everyone, this is Melissa, artist in residence at Imagine, and today I'm going to be making a fun holiday card with you using this foil paper from Renea and also this Arctic critters from Lawn Fawn die set, and these are snowflake dies, but I'm actually going to use them to cut out stars. Now the first thing I want to do is start with some watercolor paper cut to the size of a card, an A2 size card, and then I'm going to take my Tangelo fireworks and my Dandelion fireworks and spray this on a background. I'm also going to use my sheer shimmer spray, the sparkle. I like to use that to add a little bit more sparkle to my creations, but not only that, it gives some movement to the fireworks sprays on this very absorbent watercolor paper. So you can see how beautiful and sparkly the fireworks spray is, and I'm using that and I'm going to actually mask most of that paper using that black foil paper. And so I set that aside to dry, and then I'm going to go ahead and dry that up just a little bit more, but as it was drying I cut all of the stars out of the black foil paper. And I decide that I want to add a little bit of the Delicata silvery shimmer to the watercolor paper just to give the stars in the background a little bit more shine. So the idea here is that I'm creating a background, but I'm going to overlay that background with the foil paper where I've cut the stars to create a nice night sky. And I think this is a beautiful effect, and the shimmery fireworks spray really shows through and adds a nice touch to the stars in your background. So now I want to adhere that foil paper, and I simply use some tear it tape, and then I go around all the little stars with my On Point glue. The nice thing about using On Point glue here is that I don't have to go into all the nooks and crannies of those stars. I can just put circles around them, and then simply when I push that onto that watercolor paper, all of that glue will kind of push into the stars so that they adhere and there's no like loose edges close to that those edges. So I simply push it down, and then I'm going to lay something heavy on it, and as that dries I'm going to go ahead and start creating a scene to lay on top. So I'm using these two stamps, a tree line and a mountains from Little Darlings rubber stamps, and I'm going to use a stamp positioner here because, as you know, watercolor paper is fairly rough and I want to watercolor this scene, so I'm going to take VersaFine Clair and Nocturne and really stamp that tree line down. And so I'm going to do a layering technique here by masking, and so as I push that down you can see the VersaFine Clair gives a great coverage even on watercolor paper, but I decide to go ahead and add a mask to those trees. Now you can see my mask has been used before. I will often cut out a mask, and because it's fairly tedious I keep it with the stamp set to reuse over and over. And I'm going to put another layer of trees with that VersaFine Clair, and you can see now I have a cute little forest going on. But I also want to add those mountains to this scene as well. So again, I'm going to put on that mask paper and then line up my mountains. I'm using the acetate that comes with the mountain set, so I can kind of line up and see where those trees are going to be stamped on. You can see there are a few trees that don't get covered because I layered, and so I just cover those up with some post-it tape, stamp the mountains in the background, and then simply peel that off. And so now what I'm going to do here is do a watercoloring technique with Memento markers, and I'm using Cottage Ivy and New Sprout for the trees. And I just simply scribble those onto a acrylic block and then use a watercoloring technique. Now with this stamp set I can be very loose with my coloring. I don't have to be super careful because there's so many different trees, it doesn't much matter. So I'm just putting a kind of a base coat, thinking in my mind, okay, there's going to be some snow on the tips of these trees as well. And after I get that New Sprout in, I'm going to go in with the Cottage Ivy, and again just a very loose watercoloring technique. You don't have to be careful when you do a scene like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, there's going to be a little bit of snow on those trees. You want some shadowy spots, you want some light spots, and then you want some white spots where there's snow. And that's kind of the idea here. And now I'm going to go in with some London Fog and Tuxedo Black, and simply color the mountains. And again, I'm going to use the same technique, mostly using the light gray to do the first base color on the mountains, leaving that white top snowy as you see from the stamp set. And then I'll go in with a little bit of the tuxedo black and add some darker spaces to these mountains and add water as I go to kind of thin it out so it's not quite so dark there. And again, very simple, very easy. I don't want to take a lot of time to watercolor these perfectly, as this is going to be part of a scene and it won't be the main focus of the creation. I really think the firework spray under that foil paper is what's going to really shine here. So I'm simply going to dry this up now that I'm done, and I'm going to fussy cut out the mountain line, and I'm going to cut this down a little bit because I will be adding it to an A2 size card, and the card is has the long side vertical, so I don't want to use actually all of the mountains. So I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut those out. And now that I have those cut out, I'm going to use a Christmas sentiment that just says Happy Christmas, and stamp that right on the bottom portion. It looks like a little snowy scene with a nice tree line and a Happy Christmas sentiment. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a trick. I slow my video down to actual speed so you can see this. I like to take the tuxedo black marker when I fussy cut something and go along the edges of my mountains, because you know, you lose a little bit of that stamp line. And using that tuxedo black really makes a big difference. And I think that that marker is the perfect marker to do that because you don't get a lot of sloppiness from the marker. It's perfect for outlining that mountain line that I cut. So now I'm just going to take these two cute little penguin stamps. I've used these before in Christmas cards. I think they're super cute and people love penguins. So I simply use my VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink again, and now I'm going to use my fireworks spray to do the watercoloring because I really want to tie in that background with something that's going to be in the foreground. When I added the mountains and trees to that scene, I really noticed that, you know, it was beautiful, but I needed something that really matched the stars in the sky. So I'm choosing the same fireworks sprays that I used for the background, that Tangelo and the Dandelion, and simply watercoloring that onto these cute little penguins. I love fireworks sprays. They have beautiful shimmer, so you're going to get shimmer. You can watercolor with them. You can spray them on to create backgrounds. And last, I'm just going to take a pink Fabrico marker to color their little cheeks, and then I will die cut those little penguins out and go ahead and put my card together. I like to use Tear It tape on watercolor paper so that I get really good adherence, and I actually add quite a bit, and then I will go along the type of those, the top of those mountains with a little bit of the on-point glue to make sure that sticks as well. You know, creating your card and putting all the pieces together is fairly straightforward. But I do like to show you how I do each of my steps so that you can have you know, a final product that you enjoy and that you like and that you know how to actually do from beginning to end. So I go ahead and adhere that, and then next I will take my background and adhere the whole thing to an A2 size card. If you're not familiar with A2 size card, that is 5.5 by 4 1/4. Again, I'm using the Tear It tape, as on watercolor paper it just adheres really well to anything. So I attach that to my card base, and then I'm going to go ahead and just use some foam dots to pop up those little penguins, and my card is finished. Oh, actually my card is not finished because I decided that what I really wanted to do is add some more stars in the sky, and I tested this out ahead of time. This Rinea foil paper, I was a little bit worried about using Irresistible Pico Embellisher on it, but I tested it and it works great. So I'm using this shimmer gold and adding a few more stars to the sky, and I use a paper towel to dab a little bit out first, and then I'll also add a little bit of wedding dress. I just think this adds a nice little touch to this creation. And so that actually finishes my card for today. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and you'll join us again at Imagine for more great projects and tutorials. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and for a link to all the products I used today from Imagine, please look at the description box, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you and have a great day.